Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Get some headphones on just in case.
Sounds good. I know some other people should be joining, so we'll give them a few minutes. Hope you're doing well.
I'm okay. First call of the year, so
Right, same here.
that's not too bad. It has been almost, what, 5 hours without a call, so that's good. It's a new record, so I have a lot of expectations from 2025 now.
Good start, right?
It's a good start, yeah.
Hey, Ricardo. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year. Is this your first call of the year too?
Yeah.
There we go.
Where are you located? Welcome.
I'm in Toronto.
Runtime. Nice. Is it nice and toasty there?
Uh, well, it's not what it used to be. Let's call it that. We don't really have snow anymore. I don't know, for the last 2, 3 years, maybe.
Global warming.
I guess
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Boston and we haven't had we'll get a day or two of snow and then it melts. It's nice actually.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is over here as well. Like, I haven't done snow shoveling really. So,
Oh, cool. You put the slides
not
in.
that I'm complaining, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Um, that's the link to the slides. You just put in the
Yes, I did. Yeah, I just put few slides so that we can talk.
perfect. Well, I know Danielle. Oh, here's Danielle.
Might be just the three of us.
Hello.
Well, that's actually 3 more than I was expecting. To
We're
be honest.
we're very committed here in tag runtime, Gorkum.
I mean, I was like, until this morning when Daniela pinged me as asked me if I'm actually joining, I was like, yeah, I don't think there will be anyone else.
It's that time of the year. Everyone is bridging also because yeah.
All righty. I guess that's it. That's quorum, right?
That's
Yeah, let
quorum,
me
yeah.
let's me figure out how to share my slides on the screen so that we all are looking at the same thing.
Do you have a are you affiliated with a company, Gorkum, or are you just
Yeah, so I am with Jozu, which is actually a CNCF member now.
Oh, great.
I didn't put those details there.
Yeah, I was just checking, just confirming that, yeah. Cool. Yeah, so the floor is yours if you want to share.
Let me see if I am
Talk
sharing the
about
right
our
thing.
KitOps today. Yeah, go ahead. I think that's great.
So you're able to see the slides as well, right?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So today we're going to talk about KitOps. It's a we just made, I think it was during KubeCon, a proposal to move KitOps open source project into CNCF Sandbox. So we're going to do a small introduction to what KitOps is and where the community is. Take a quick look at their roadmap, and then we're going to talk a little bit about standardization. I think that's actually the one of the hot topics on that field, around this field. So let's talk about the project itself. So the goal of the KitOps is enhancing the collaboration between application developers, data scientists, and SREs through an open and a vendor neutral standard. I know, like, when I first came up with this definition of the project, someone said that, well, that's a really big elephant to kill. And we all actually understand that, but when we started the project back in February, we are all thought that, you know, this is a cause worthy of fighting for. So we started the open source project. So therefore, the KitOps consists of a few pieces. There's something called model kits. There's something called kit files, and then we have a kit CLI and an accompanying Python library as well. So, and the reason for that is the first aim, where we are trying to accommodate for the data scientist and the SRE. And there are a few components like GitHub Actions and Dagger modules and so on and so forth that helps you do that on the SRE DevOps side as well. So that's why the project is a little bit larger than just model kits, but model kits is the heart of it. So what is a model kit? A model kit is an OCI compliant packaging format. It's essentially an OCI artifact. It adheres to the OCI image specification, and it allows you to include datasets, code, docs, configurations, and models in an OCI package, in an OCI artifact. And the interesting bit about this OCI artifact is every single one of these artifacts types are stored in their own media types. So this allows the tooling to be able to directly access and get the parts that they actually need. For instance, if you are doing evaluations of a model, you can just get the data sets that you want to use for those evaluations. Or if you just are interested in running the model itself, you can get the models and model parts as well. And I put a link in the slide so that you can see a little bit more explanation of how that looks. But if you look at the manifest itself, this is a model kit with a single layer that is just a model layer. So it's not very different than what you would expect from any other OCI artifact. Righty. And then another thing that we have is kit file. The kit file is a little bit like Docker, Docker file, container file, if you're familiar with that. But it is a completely different design. Docker file and Docker file actually executes some number of commands, where in this case, the kit file is basically just a declaration of what needs to be packaged, what are their properties, relationships, what are the parameters that are associated with what has been packaged. We have adopters of the project who actually use the kit file as their central location for storing package the model parameters and carry them over to the production through those through a Kit file. So there is a lot of questions about, we get pretty much every a few days a question about, oh, how do I move the parameters to production? And this is one way of doing it. So you can see the details in the Kit file specification. It is not a very heavy file. It actually has sections for, if you want to package a code layer, there is a section for it. If you want to package a data set layer, there is a code for it, a section for it, and the model layer has its own layer section, and then you can put details like the very well-known details like frameworks and licenses and so on, very well-known properties, not frameworks, like frameworks and licenses and so on and so forth. So we try to keep it as with enough details, but not too much. And we thought that as the project gets adopted more, we will know more about what to add to this and so on and so forth. Like we have a parameter section which is not in this example, but we have a parameter section which is basically any key value pair that you can put there, so that we didn't want to be very restrictive. And other than manifest version, none of these fields are required. So you can actually have a very minimal Kit file, and actually, it's a valid Kit file. The Kit CLI actually helps you generate these Kit files as well, because as you can see, some of these things like code and data sets and models, if you just point the Kit CLI to a folder that has these artifacts, it is very good at figuring out what to put into a Kit file. And the details that matters, like your parameters, is basically what you need to work with. And the last piece is the CLI and the PyKitOps library. So CLI is, it provides a set of commands for managing, running, deploying model kits. It uses Kit files to, doing the packaging and so on and so forth. And the PyKitOps is our Python library for doing almost all of the functionality of the Kit CLI from Python. And this is our list of commands. So as you can see, they are very similar to what you would expect from Docker, Podman build kind of thing as well. So there's familiarity in there. I don't think there's anything interesting here other than the dev command, which is our experimental command. What dev command can do is it can actually take a model kit and run it locally. This is similar to Olama, I suppose. We don't use Olama behind the scenes. We actually use a Mozilla project called LlamaFile, if you're familiar with it. We use LlamaFile to run the model. As long as the model is in Giga format, it is able to run. So this is kind of our experimental thing. At the moment, we're not really sure if it actually fits with the CLI or it should be something else, and so on and so forth. So but other than the dev command, which kind of sticks out, everything else is about managing your model kits to work with an OCI registry, packaging them, pulling them, pushing them, unpacking them, and functionality like that.
One question that I have is on the Kit file. So potentially, I think that's information related to the model cart. So that I guess you can put anything there, right? So like folks that are interested in
yeah. For instance, in our Jozo, the company behind KitOps, we actually have a hub, called Jozo Hub. What we do is we actually look into the documentation layers, and we see that if we see a README MD, we actually render that on our hub UI. So you can do something like that as well. It's like there are these conventions where a license is always a license file, and a README is always starts with the README, and so on and so forth. So you can actually are able to just see that through a Kit file, and the Kit inspect and Kit info commands. You can use that for querying the values on Kit file, and so therefore it is possible for anyone to store anything um, related to models. In this example, we don't have a doc layer, for instance, on the Kit file. That's probably because doc layer is something that we have added recently uh, because of a request from an adopter, because they apparently the European Union has a regulation where they need to keep the related documentation to a model for 10 years. So they wanted to be able to do that easily for their
Have you,
solution.
have you looked at the model openness framework? It's just like a framework that talks about all the different model components and how open source they are. So maybe there's
Yeah,
something
I've seen it recently. Yes. Yeah. Yep. I have seen it recently. Yeah.
in another question that I have is also, how this model or the models that are specified in the KitOps file or with the KitOps file. Uh, Maybe another interesting information. Oh, okay, okay, you got the
Yeah.
framework. Yeah, because okay, so you got TensorFlow there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so folks use like different frameworks like PyTorch or like UVM, XGBoost, and CatBoost. There's a bunch of frameworks, open
Yeah.
source. So, okay.
Yeah, so we do have, I mean, we have model kits that are used by people, in every different format, right? Just like this one is a TensorFlow format, but it's like GGOF is usually we package our stuff on GGOF, but then uh, everything you can imagine that can serialize a model's weight, people use it. It's pretty much, anything that you can put on a tar, you can actually use it with. The one thing interesting, it may be interesting, is there's something also called model parts. And the reason for us having model parts, because there are these model adapters like LoRa adapters, CLoRa adapters, right? Uh, so that a model part is essentially a fine tuning on top of a base model. So that's how we usually recommend using it, but people use it different ways as well. But usually a model part means that there's a model that has been fine-tuned with a LoRa adapter.
Yeah, and that's applicable to LLMs, right? But there are
Yeah,
also
exactly.
other
Yeah.
models. Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, that's not applicable to other models, but that's why we wanted to like separate the model and model part from each other. But also there's a big use case on the LLM part for the LoRa adapter, so we wanted to be able to support it. So where are we with the community? So we started end of February. We do have 5 full-time maintainers from Jozu. I'm myself former Red Hatter, and then we do have a couple of other Red Hatters on the team that are maintainers as well. So so far we had 21 different contributors to the project. We started to get 1, 2, 3 regular contributors. So they show up, they do something, they go off for a couple of weeks, they come back. So your typical open source project. We were close to 600 on GitHub for stars. Our download numbers are over 33,000 in the last 2 quarters. And we are licensed under Apache 2.0. When we first started our project, as I said, we were trying to kill a really, really large elephant. And we always thought that this would actually end up with CNCF. Therefore, you don't see a lot of trademark related to Jozu in the project. We knew that well, we have done open source for a very long time. So we knew that we would have to go through, this trademark scrutiny when we donate the project to CNCF and so on and so forth. So we kind of kept it very separate. So Jozu, the company, and the KitOps project, the trademarks are very separate. And therefore, we chose to adopt a governance model and a code of conduct that is inspired by CNCF, if not exactly the same as CNCF. We do have users. I do not have permission to give out their name. To my surprise, but not to anyone else's, that we did get a lot of attention from the government institutions. I'm guessing that that's because we are able to sign things and so on and so forth. So that was interesting to them. We do have adapters in technology and manufacturing that we are aware of, that we talk to. Hoping that we will be able to share names soon. On the roadmap, I think the big item in there is the specification, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. But other than that, we have been improving our metadata that we put into our TARs a little bit. This has a lot to do with the Linux user that you're putting it with and so on and so forth, so that we were fixing a few things there, making it more compatible with the practices out there. Another thing that we're working on is integration with MLflow. There is a lot of MLflow users out there who would like to be able to use KitOps in a more integrated way, because you're doing your experimentation and at some point you want to package it and send it to others to share, and KitOps seems to be a more convenient way of doing it for them. Another feature that we started working on, actually this one is in progress, is the importing of the models from Hugging Face as a model kit directly. So it's going to be like, I think, kit import and then the name of their Hugging Face repository, and voila, you'll have a model kit. As I said, we do have a way of generating our kit files, so it's going to be mostly correct.
One question that I have for Hugging Face: do you actually translate some of their spec, or you just like straight up import the model?
Yeah, we like, I don't think they have a spec. Like, they are more of a Git repository, right? Yeah. What we do is we scan their folder structure, and then there are certain files that are actually models. There are certain file types that are data sets. So those are very easy to figure out. The readmes are always, Hugging Face considers readmes as model cards. So we do. So we always include them. The license file, if it exists, we put them. And then from the model card has the YAML front matter as well in Hugging Face, which has some properties that we may actually scrape and put into a kit file.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. And that seems to be very, very efficiently working, let's say. But the model cards is a well, we can talk about model cards in the future. It's a mess.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place. There is no standard, or there are 5 standards, depending on how you look at it. So standardization. So we are actively participating on, there's an ongoing specification discussion, which is named the model spec or something like that as well. It's essentially the same thing as a model kit. It's an OCI artifact that is created to hold models. So we are actively participating on that specification discussion. What we want to do is because the specification is not an implementation, so we want KitOps to be a reference implementation of the specification. Once the specification is more on the way. So far, the discussion seems to be very compatible with what KitOps says. I mean, it should be because OCI specification is very clear on that, right? So the names may change, the field names, the keys, and so on and so forth. Those are details that will change, obviously. But the general idea of how it works seems to be the same. We are talking to some people on OCI runtimes as well, so that one of the things that we want to be able to do is to get support from the larger CNCF community for this, and OCI runtimes would be, CRI-O and Containerd would be one place where we could have better support. I'm pretty sure you're aware of the OCI image mounting support that exists in the last cube version. So we kind of want to enhance that a little bit so that we can, if we need to mount a OCI image, OCI artifact rather than an OCI image, because specs are a little bit different, but the same thing with a different key, I suppose. If we are able to do that, we will, but if not, we will figure out a way. We already have a way of sort of on-the-fly conversion of an OCI artifact to an OCI image, and so on and so forth. Harbor Project seems to be very interested in providing support for the specification. Another project is Dragonfly that is interested in. So there is a lot in the larger CNCF landscape that can actually innovate once we have a standard, right? I guess that's the main role of the standard is to foster the innovation right after.
It's the
So
sorry.
Yeah, that's really one question I had along those lines. You talk about the runtime integration, who is really doing the unpacking today? Do you use the CLI doesn't unpack, but is there native things that unpack, or is it always through the CLIs so
right
far?
now, yeah, for KitOps, it has always been the CLI itself.
Okay.
Yeah. It could, and that's, I guess, one of the things that we need to work with on the larger CNCF community, right? Is get support from OCI runtimes, get support from elsewhere as well. And also, I do have my personal doubts about whether the right way to do this is actually in the OCI runtimes or not as well, because we are assuming that the performance is going to be really better if the Containerd or the CRI-O is doing the unpacking. But it may also be that, for instance, in cluster proxy that is streaming directly into the memory may actually perform better, because even with CRI-O, you actually have to put it into a disk and read from disk, so that your throughput kind of depends on your disk performance. So I think that there's still some benchmarking that needs to be done before we actually say, oh, pull the trigger on anything, to be honest. But today, there is a way to mount an OCI image. People kind of talk about that, but I haven't seen any benchmarks that suggest that it is actually better for an AI model to be mounted that way.
Interesting. Do you see something like a lazy image streaming as a possibility here for the OCI streaming support.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. The issue is when you are running a model, unless you have all the weights ready, your inference actually doesn't really start. And so you need to like load the model weights into the memory so that for the inference to be started. So if you are streaming and only the first 5 rows of your, well, not rows, but the first 5 layers of your model has arrived to the runtime, that doesn't help that much. And the way that it works today, for instance, with the mounting, you actually put everything to a file system and then read everything from the file system into memory, and then your inference starts. So can you actually skip the file system and just rely on the network bandwidth? Is that a better way of doing it or not? That's my doubt right now, which is like, is the throughput going to be better if we are downloading everything to a node's file system and then reading it from there? Or is it going to be better if we are just reading it from a Kubernetes internal network connection? Like, it depends on, it depends a lot on the amount of bandwidth you have, the throughput that you can have with your disk IO and so on and so forth. So like, I have my doubts about, what is the optimal solution. I have a feeling that there isn't one optimal solution, and it will depend a lot on your hardware configuration. So we're going to have to accommodate for both. But, I need to do the benchmarks and do the math, and after that come up with something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And typically you load up everything in a GPU memory too. So that's, I mean, when you start inference, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
And
a method of distribution across multiple nodes where you're running like inference across multiple GPU.
maybe, and that's the other thing as well,
Yeah.
right? It's like, yes, that's the other thing is, if you're running in parallel, how do you do that? If you're running more than one, how do you do that? There is actually a legitimate concern about the security of these weights, because these weights actually have a lot of data in it. Just because we are not very good at extracting data from the weights doesn't mean that we won't learn how to do that, or the hackers won't learn how to do that. So you have a weight lying in a node's file system. So, how do we secure that? How do we make sure that they are secure, and so on and so forth? So there is still some art that needs to be worked on, but I think it's moving in the right direction.
Makes sense.
Yeah, thanks.
I guess that was my last slide. And I put our links to the slide as well, if you're interested in that.
Are there any optimizations for training, or you haven't looked at? Yeah.
No, I mean, for the training, we do have a way of packaging the data sets itself into a model, and that has been actually one of our early adapters started that way. One of our early adapters were training their models with data sets, and the way that they were tracking their data sets to train the model was in a spreadsheet. And you may not believe how common that is in the AI world, where the data set, the trained model is done on a spreadsheet. So this was working well for them, but then apparently they had to like increase the amount of training that they have done lately, and someone recorded something wrong, and they got a fantastic result from their evaluation of the trained model, and they decided that, hey, we need to actually put this to production, because look at the improvement that we got. And they put it into production, and they didn't see the results. And then they went back and noticed that, oh, this is the wrong data set that we used for evaluation. We actually used our training data set and expected a different result. So just to avoid that sort of confusion, they were looking for a way to like relate immutably the relationship between the model and the data set, and they started using the model kits for that purpose. So, you know, we are not doing anything magical on the hardware side or the Kubernetes side for training things, but the service that this provides behind the scenes is so valuable that there are other projects and other groups that will be able to do those sort of things. It's like the accounting that you're able to rely on is a very important factor in training large number of models, especially. There was actually a statistics. I think it was like more than 40% of all the AI training is kept on spreadsheets right now. So
Yeah.
that's a way to do bookkeeping. But the immutability of the models has been an eye-opener for some of the organizations we talked with. The fact that we are actually signing things has been also good for a few others. They actually like the fact that you can sign things and verify at the destination and so on and so forth. So,
Can you
and you can guess
sign
they
the
are
model?
government.
Can you sign the model weights too? So that do you have...
We are able to sign the model kit and each layer separately.
Got it.
So the tar that reaches you, you know that the tar is the correct tar, essentially.
Got it.
At some point, we may, think about adding some sort of encryption to this as well, which I'm not sure about yet, on how to do it. I don't want to add some sort of an encryption layer just because we can. So I'm kind of looking for use cases for that as well. But encrypted weights would be interesting.
Danielle, you had a question?
No, actually, the last topic kind of covered what I had in mind. Just like how to make it secure. So
yeah,
thinking about deliveries of images, well, it came to mind.
Oh, I don't know if it really went over. Maybe I missed it, but if your model has a GUF file,
yeah.
do you split that up, or do you actually?
No, the GGUFs are single files, and that's the beauty of the format. Actually, is like it includes some of the metadata in front of the model file, so it's a kind of a combination of parameters and the weights. So we don't split them at the moment, no. But if they do have LoRa adapters that works with the GGUF base model, we do ship them separately. Actually, Model Kits has a way of referencing another model kit, which is like an OCI reference. Works somehow like the from command in the Docker file, but it's not like that because our models are not incremental. Like the Docker puts them in an incremental file system, right? The Docker file system. In our case, we reference to another essentially model kit, which we retrieve during unpacking and put it into the correct place.
Let's see. So
that's
starting from a different model kit, I guess.
So that's basically what it does is, let's say that you have a Llama 3.2 that you have just grabbed from somewhere, and that's your base model, and then you fine-tuned it and created a LoRa adapter. So we didn't want to package the Llama base model plus the LoRa adapter into model kit. But what we wanted to do is like, oh, just do the LoRa adapter, package the LoRa adapter so that we can refer to the other one, the base model kit, and use it from there directly. So it's sort of a reference to a base model kind of thing.
But you could also potentially have additional LoRa adapters. So you just say you package your model from the base Llama 3.2 and you add your LoRa adapters, but then you push that over to some sort of registry, and then somebody else wants to start from your base, then you can do that too, right? And then they can add additional.
Exactly. Right. Anything that is an OCI reference, you can use that as your base model, yeah. And it will recursively unpack them.
Got it.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
All good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you very much, Gorgam. Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you. Thank you for taking the first call of the year with me.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing more progress in the project. And you already have it in the sandbox.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I should add the link to the document as well, to the sandbox issue. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the folks in the AI working group might be interested in hearing more about it in the future. So we'll reach out.
Yeah. I'm kind of trying to figure out where I should actually do presentation. I actually noticed that the runtime tag was the label was added to the issue, and I was that I should actually probably talk to the tag runtime then. So
Yeah.
there is, I'm always confused about this thing in CNCF, in the sense that this can be application or runtime or both, that kind of
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
confusion
lot of
all the time.
overlap. There's a lot of
Yeah.
overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's a nice problem to have, actually.
yeah, sometimes it makes sense to talk to both folks as well. But
Yeah,
this
I'm
case where
happy to. Yeah.
certainly
I'm
the
happy
AI
to.
working group would be a good next step potentially. So I see you're technically new in the runtime, so probably not in the next immediate review. You're in the new column.
Mhm.
So I think that the next review is in a couple weeks from now, and there's quite a bit of agenda there. So I'd expect maybe the follow-on, not this upcoming meeting, but the next sandbox review probably.
Okay, then how does I'm just from a procedural point of view, how does that new to next goes? Like, is there anything that I need to do to trigger that?
Yeah, at this point, that's the only thing that they have because they have a long backlog of projects, right? So they try to manage it that way, right? So
Yeah.
You can always like ping on the issue and say like, oh, are we up on the next review? We're looking forward to getting this review so that we get in the sandbox stage in the CNCF by the next KubeCon or something like that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I just put the project link in the chat. Someone in the TOC generally manages the moving the new to upcoming or things like that. So upcoming would be the ones in the next review meeting. But it's really kind of a first come, first serve situation, and there's just a backlog as it goes.
Yeah.
But any questions, update the issue, anything that we have additional questions or TOC has will be done through that issue as well. So that's a great way to kind of continue the conversation.
All right.
Are you also planning to be at KubeCon in London or?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I'm gonna travel to London. Yeah,
So
I'll be there.
so we typically have a kiosk or Time kiosk or booth.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I was in
would be
Salt
great
Lake as
to
well. Yeah.
yeah, it would be great to see if you're around. Maybe you can actually give an overview while there, right at the
Yeah.
kiosk, and then get some
Yeah.
interest in the project from the community. Right?
Yeah, we'll be happy to. Yeah.
Yeah, just keep in touch, and we'll keep in touch.
All right. Yeah.
Yep.
Me.
Cool.
I should
You're on
find the.
the Slack channels with us, Corcom?
Yep, I am.
Perfect. So we'll post any updates there for KubeCon information, like signups for the booth, things like that.
Okay.
Very cool.
And if I can manage to find how to stop sharing. It goes. Zoom always does this. It goes to the wrong window. The button, stop share button, always goes to the wrong window. It's like I keep looking for it.
Great.
Alrighty. Who's
Hi
next?
guys. I guess that's the only topic for today.
Right. It was great meeting you.
You too, on to the rest of our day.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.